Hey guys, this is Whitney, and welcome back to an episode of Spastic Chatter. Spastic Chatter is a platform meant to feature those in the cerebral palsy community, and I get together weekly with individuals with CP, like myself, to have an uncensored chat about what it's really like living with this type of disability. And for this week, I have LoriAnn, and she wrote in because she wrote a book, a children's book, correct?
Mm-hmm.
About living with cerebral palsy. So this week we're gonna learn more about LoriAnn and her book. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
Okay, thank you. So, I hope I'm not frozen right now because you look frozen on my screen. Anyway, I wrote a book called That Teacher Uses Crutches, explaining cerebral palsy to children. And so I should explain that I have spastic diplegia. So my speaking is fine. I'm very lucky my speaking is fine. But it's my legs and somewhat my upper body as well. But I was working in a school at the time. I was actually a teacher's aide, but the kids all saw me as a teacher. And they kept asking their teacher why I had crutches. And she kept telling them to ask me, but they were too afraid. So she invited me to come speak to her class, and I was really thrilled to do that. I thought that was perfect, the perfect way to handle it. And so I went in and I asked them what kind of questions they had for me, and they were totally silent. They didn't want to do it. They were afraid. So I said, why don't I just tell you about myself? So I told them what I had. I told them I had cerebral palsy, and I told them that it was because I was born prematurely and I had a very low birth weight, and that it affected my brain, and so that it affected the way I moved around. And I told them that my crutches were a help to me, and I told them about the things that I could do because I had my crutches that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I told them that I lived on my own with my cat, and that I worked, and that I drove a car with special hand controls. And what I really wanted was for them.
Hi, I can't hear you. Oh, the audio cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
Yeah.
Phooey, I was hoping that wasn't going to happen while we were talking.
It's fine. It's all good. This is
okay.
This is technology. Like, sometimes it fails.
Sometimes it fails.
It's all good.
Yes, it's all good. So anyway, most of the children's books that I was familiar with talked about other kids with disabilities or famous people.
Yeah.
And I wanted kids to know that regular people like us with disabilities can be independent and, live on our own and do regular things like other people in the community do. So that's why I decided to put my conversation that I actually had with the kids into a book form.
So it's based off of that one interaction with the classroom.
Yes, yeah, and I'd been working with kids for a really long time by that point. So yeah, it was based on that. And then they did ask me questions, but before they asked me questions, I told them a couple of things to put them at ease. And because from having worked with kids for a long time, I had a feeling that I knew what they were worried about. So I told them a bit of a white lie. I told them it didn't hurt, which isn't true,
Yeah.
but that's a big thing that makes kids nervous.
Yeah, exactly.
Adults too, I've noticed, they get really uncomfortable when they hear that it causes pain. So anyway, I told them it. Go ahead.
I think you brought up a good point there when you first got in the classroom and then you asked if they had any questions. They were all silent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good point because most like in my experience today, most parents, they tend to shush their kids if they have any questions, and like for me, I would prefer that they ask. Like,
Yes.
you know, kids, just let your kids ask because that starts a conversation and it shows them that like we're normal human beings. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I thought that was a very excellent point that you made. So whenever you got them talking, I bet you couldn't get them to be quiet after that, right?
Yeah.
Once
You
you
are right.
more,
You are absolutely right.
yeah.
I couldn't get them to be quiet. And the other thing I told them was that it wasn't contagious and they weren't going to catch it from me. And I literally could see them all sit back,
Yeah.
relax. And then they started asking me questions, and this actually happened over 10 years ago, so I can't remember the particular questions except for one, which is that they wanted to know if they could try my crutches. And I know kids are often really curious about that. And so I let them come up. I'm actually only 4'10". So some of the kids this was fourth grade. Some of them were as tall as me already. So some of them could actually use them, like try them on. I have loft strand crutches. So.
That's awesome. So, just a funny like story from me. Like I have 5 nieces and nephews. So like they're used to, like, they grew up with me, like they're used to it. And like my sister will tell me stories about like what happened in school, and like their class will see somebody in a wheelchair, and like everybody will be freaking out, and my niece was like, guys, it's just a wheelchair, like, he's like, it's so normal, like it's just a wheelchair. I think the lady, her friend was like, why is she in that wheelchair? And Josie goes, because she can't walk. Duh. It's just so like normal for her. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you mentioned that was 10 years ago you wrote your book.
Yep.
Have you done any went into any other classrooms with it or anything like that since you wrote it?
No, I haven't. Actually, the incident took place more than 10 years ago, but I actually wrote it 3 years ago. I took that time. Yeah. So I haven't brought it into any classrooms, but my nieces and nephews, what I did was I had the illustrators put their pictures, like I gave them pictures of my nieces and nephews, and they put them in as illustrations.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So they brought it to their schools for show and tell.
That's very cool. That's a very good, like, I would never have thought about that, putting your actually family members in the book.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what do you like? You kind of already touched on this, but like, what is like one takeaway that you want kids to have when they get done reading your book? Like if they're, you kind of already touched on it, but say like, I don't know how I haven't read the book, so I don't know how it ends or whatever. But say the kid is like is bullying somebody, and they read your book.
Mm-hmm.
Could it change their perspective, or is it just it's just about a teacher, right?
I want it to change their perspective. I wanted to make disability less mysterious. I want kids to see that I'm like other people, and
Yeah.
that I'm like other adults. You know,
Yeah.
and to
Oh,
make my crutches.
I lost my train of thought there. So sorry. It's
That's
morning.
okay.
It's
No,
morning. So
that,
are you do you have plans for like writing any more children's books? And did you get the itch for it after writing one?
I did. I was hoping if my book did well that I would be able to write other books as well. And I haven't been very good about publishing it. I mean, publicizing it. I'm not good at the PR part of it, but I'm using the time in this pandemic and being home more at trying to find ways to publicize it a little better. But in my mind, I had this vision of doing a whole series maybe of people I knew with different disabilities, and writing a children's book about their particular disability. So yeah, that's
I think that's really like that's a need right now,
yes.
because the world's all about inclusivity, and like there seems to be more talk about it now,
Mm-hmm.
going on with what's going on in the world. So I think that's very cool, and I think that's even like it needs to like I think it'd be cool if you like did like events around the book. Or like you said that your nieces and nephews like take it to the schools
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I think it would. I just think it'd be awesome.
I would love to do it in other schools.
Yeah.
If teachers invited me. And actually, the teacher in the book is a friend of mine who really is a teacher, and she also brought it to her school, and friends have bought it for kids they know. So I'm hoping that other kids bring it into their school, but I really would love to do some classroom visits in person.
That's awesome. So it's available on Amazon, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna put the link in the description so everybody can check it out, and like
Yep.
so maybe those will get you some PR, some free PR.
Can I show it to you, the cover?
Yes.
If I fit it next to my head. So
Yeah.
here it is.
That's cool. Awesome. But after or at the end of each interview, I ask my guests if they have any advice for other people like in the same situation or going through something. So, do you have any advice for someone that may want to start writing a children's book, or life advice in general?
Well, I went through a company called Archway Publishing that helped me put it together because I didn't know what I was doing. Now that I have a little bit more idea about how it's done, people can also there are websites out there that will help you to write it, and also will help you put it together. So like Amazon has a Create, I think it's called, where you can put it together. It's a different route than what I did. That might be a little less expensive than what I did. But there are different routes out there. You just have to search for them. And there's also different routes for publicizing your book. You might have to search for them. I think the key is just finding the right people, the right venues for your book. So like I said, I'm working on that right now, finding some different venues or ways to publicize my book. I actually wasn't in it to make money so much as I wanted a book that my nieces and nephews could keep that had them in it, but I also want to educate people.
Yeah, exactly.
More than anything. And I don't really have a bucket list, but this was the one thing I really wanted to make sure that I did before I passed on, because it was really important to me to have my name, because I like to write, and I wanted my name on a book, and I thought I want people to understand CP, you know.
That's awesome though, and I think it's important to note that you're not a professional writer. So anyone, if you want to write a book, you can write a book. It doesn't matter that you're not a professional at it. So I think that's a good takeaway too.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, LoriAnn, for writing in, wanting to be on an episode of Spastic Chatter.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I look forward to reading your book. I think I'm going to get it for my nieces and nephews.
Oh. By the way, I did want to say I did make it clear in the book that I have one type of CP, and that there are other types. So the spectrum is so drastic. Yeah.
So yeah. But again, thank you. And for those of you watching, if you want to be on an episode of Spastic Chatter, there is a link in the description. And until next week, or check back next week for another episode of Spastic Chatter. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much.